So again, we are starting our the actual ecosystems. We're talking about the biomes, and we're going to start up with the terrestrial biomes. All of the terrestrial biomes are going to be the ones that are on land. That is your taiga, your tundra, your deserts, deciduous forests, tropical rainforests, savannas, prairies, the two grasslands, which is what we'll start with today. Then we will move to the aquatic biomes, which are the water biomes, which is your oceans, estuaries, the two big ones, I think, then lakes, rivers, streams, ponds. We'll talk about bogs and marshes a little bit, but we won't get too deep into those. But today we're starting off with terrestrial, and that is all the things having to do with land, and that was the first thing that I put in our anchor chart for today. Now, we are going to start off in the grasslands, and we're going to talk about two different grasslands. Okay? Now, I asked this in the first class, and it was a very, very tough question. So if you get it wrong, it's not a huge deal. All right? But it is an extremely tough question. Brady, what do you think the main plant life is in a place called the grasslands? What do you think the main plant life is in a place called grasslands? What's the main plant, though? Grass. Very good. Very difficult question. I know it is very hard. That will probably not be on the test. It could, though. If I can find it, I'll put it on there. The main thing is grass. Now, the reason why that's important is that's going to change the types of animals, and the reason why grass grows there as opposed to other things is because of the sun, soil, temperature, and water, our four main abiotic components. And we will kind of get a little bit deeper into that. I do see here on this front page where it says that in a grassland that the soil is dark, nutrient-rich soil. You might even see that labeled as fertile soil, which is where you get the word fertilizer, which is when you make the soil dark and nutrient rich, which is something that's very important. We have two grasslands that we're going to talk about. The first grassland that I'm going to take notes on is the prairie. And the prairies are in North America. They're going to be where we live. The savanna, the second biome we study today, is going to be more in Asia and Africa and other places. You'll be very familiar with the animals there. I'm kind of sad to know that Allie's out today because we're probably studying her favorite biome of all today because it's definitely one. Yeah, when we get to this. All right, so one of the things, sun, soil, temperature, and water. All right, we're talking about the climate, which has to do with the sun and the temperature. Very important. The summers in the prairie are very hot. The winters are unbelievably cold. I do not need you to memorize these temperatures, but I do know you do need to know there's two distinct seasons because that makes them very different from us because we have four distinct seasons in the deciduous forest. Rain in the grasslands occurs in the late spring and the early summer. They get about 20 to 35 inches. A lot of that falls in the winter as snow. And it is important to understand that, yes, do they get rain? They get more rain than a desert. They get more rain than a tundra. They do not get as much rain as the forest, either deciduous or temperate or tropical rainforest, because they don't support a lot of tree growth. Trees, if we remember in the one passage that we had during rhyme, tend to take up a lot of nutrients out of the soil. You don't want that in a grassland. You want the grass to get all the nutrients so that they can grow. And I think that that's something that's very, very important. In the grasslands, both the prairie and in the savanna, wildfires are something that is happens very often because as the grass gets dry and lightning strikes, you start to see wildfires. And it sounds on the surface, Charlie, that wildfires might be a terrible thing. Oh my goodness, a massive wildfire has broken out. It actually is not necessarily a bad thing. Wildfires burn out a lot of weeds and other things that really don't need to be there. And because grass has this very low growth point. Go home and ask your dads about this. Your dad mows on Saturday, and next Saturday, what does he have to do again? Mow again. Why? Because grass, you can chop grass all the way down to the ground, and it's going to grow back because it has that adaptation of having a very low growth point. All the stuff that's doing the growing is underground. All the roots and everything that are keeping grass alive and keeping it growing is underground. If I chop a tree down, it has a harder time growing back than grass because it doesn't have the same adaptations, which is another reason why this is extremely important. Again, good enough amount of rain to keep the grass alive, not enough rain for it to keep trees alive. There are some trees, but not a lot. There are a lot of grasses, wheat, oats, and those types of things. Some of those wildflowers that we planted in our window plants over there are the same ones that are going to grow here. Goldenrod, sunflowers, clovers, wild indigos, all of those are in those cups that we planted. They're starting to grow. We haven't seen any flowers yet, but we will. Animals of the grasslands. Animals of the grasslands are like bison, antelope, birds, prairie dogs, which is one that's going to be very important. If you lived in a grassland, what adaptation do you think would be very important? We'll come back and watch this video after because I can't watch a YouTube video in a YouTube video. That's copyright laws. We're not going to watch that one either, or that one, or that one. Anchor chart notes. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I'm not writing all that because that would be ridiculous. I think he may have a point here. Yeah. Remember how we couldn't change the color of everything? You need to stop. Don't write the Savannah stuff. I don't know if that will block it for you, but I can if it'll let me. Does that block off the Savannah stuff? All right, everything on your screen you need to write down that's in green right now. We've already talked about it. Now we're going to take the notes. All right, so we've had time to take our notes on that. Again, Mason, when you're watching these, I'm not going to pause for 10 minutes in the middle of the video. Like, hit pause on the YouTube video. Cool. Close the whiteboard, and we are moving on. Now we are moving into the Savannah. Now we're moving into the Savannah, and that's going to be something very, very important for us to look at. This is going to be half the surface of Africa, lots of Australia, good portions of South America and India, and it covers a ton of the Earth's surface. I would have to look this up, Dawson, but it is probably, obviously it's not the 75% of the Earth that the ocean covers, might be the biggest part of the Earth's surface just under the oceans. Maybe. I really do need to look that up, but I would imagine that grasslands are there. It's not deciduous forest, certainly not tropical rainforest. It's not deserts. It's not the tundra, not the taiga. Grasslands makes the most sense to be the second most large portion of the Earth's surface. You're very familiar with this. Again, what's the main plant life in the savanna? It's a grassland. Grasses. Are there some trees? Well, yeah, you can see them in the background. The climate, however, is very, very different. They don't have these two distinct seasons of like really harsh and cold winters and smoking hot summers. It just stays hot and humid and warm there all the time, Leo. It doesn't really change. It stays hot. 68 to 86. That sounds like our spring, summer all the time there. I would not like living there because I enjoy the cool weather like we had today. Again, about 8 months of the year, it's wet season, lots of rain. 4 to 6 months of the year is dry season. They get a little less rain than we got in the savannah. They get 10 to 30 inches. Still enough to keep the grasses alive, not enough to keep a lot of trees around. Same problems here. Dry seasons leads us into having those lightning strikes that can cause wildfires. But again, as we've learned, those wildfires aren't necessarily a bad thing. Mostly grasses and some shrubs. However, we will learn about some special things like the acacia tree that you see in the background here. It is a food source of giraffes. Somebody asked in the last class, do they have acacia trees planted at the zoo since that's a food source? I don't know. I'm actually looking forward to going to the zoo and looking for an acacia tree now. If we can find somebody from the zoo, I'm going to ask them to bring us a branch so that we can look at the thorns of the acacia tree because they are huge. If you stepped on an acacia thorn outside, it would go through your foot just like a nail. They're massive. They're not small thorns. And then under that are even tinier little thorns. And then some of the branches have like little hairs that are like little sticky thorns all over it. And the giraffe somehow still gets to eat that because of its adaptations, which is kind of wild. The acacia tree, because there's not a lot of rain, has very cactus-like adaptations. It stores water in its right under its bark, kind of like a cactus. It's kind of neat. We'll watch this video after this. Animal life. Elephants, zebras, lions, giraffes. Is that all of them? No. I mean, somebody said, what about the hyenas? Yes, hyenas, sure. There's plenty others. No coyotes here, though. That's going to be in the prairie. Very similar. You need camouflage to hide in the grass. You need to be fast, or you need to live underground. Because there's not a lot of places for you to hide as you go in here. Now, one thing that we talked about in here the other day, ladies in the back that are giggling, is we talked about what happens when there is a drought. What did we say that word meant when there is a drought somewhere? Dawson. Does not rain for a while. So again, if it's a drought and it's dry, the animals are going to move to where there is water. The plants cannot move, so that's why certain plants like the acacia have learned to store water in their bark so that they don't have to move. We're skipping over those, and we're going to get to there. So let me come back to this and open this back up. It's going to make me do that, I know. And now let me open up the notes about the savanna, and we will go back and watch the attached videos. So again, if you're at home, you're stuck at home, you're sick, we're getting to that season. I know people that are going home left and right in schools. Stomach bugs, flus, strep throats, colds, the whole works. If you're at home, you need to go to Google Classroom or YouTube and watch this, right? If you're at home, like hopefully we've all done this. Well, maybe not our new student. She hasn't done this yet, but she will. Smash the like button and subscribe on my YouTube channel, and then we'll be good to go.